Tonight, the world feels a little poorer. Chuck Norris has passed away at the age of 86. For many, he was an actor. For even more, a symbol. But for those of us who grew up in the former Eastern Bloc, he was something greater, a window into a world where good triumphs, where courage is non negotiable, and where America stood as a beacon lighting in the darkness. Chuck Norris wasn't just an action star. He was a patriot in the truest sense of the word. He loved his country without reservation, supported the US military, respected the uniform and those who wear it. In a world where values are often blurred, he remains constant, committed to the belief that good and evil exist, and that it is a man's duty to stand and fight for what is right. For our generation, the films produced by the Canon Group were more than entertainment. They were lessons in honor, sacrifice, and freedom. We, the children of the 80s and the 90s in Eastern Europe, grew up treating these stories as absolute truth. At a time when the reality around us was gray and hopeless, heroes appeared on the screen, real Americans, real men. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Michael Dudikoff, and of course Chuck Norris. He was a beacon in the darkness of the 80s and 90s. Raised under communism with minds filled with propaganda and fear, we discovered, through pirated VHS tapes, black and white TVs, clandestine screenings, and later cable TV, a world where values mattered. It was the era of Ronald Reagan, a time when we truly believed Americans would always come to save the world, that good would prevail, that truth and freedom were worth any sacrifice. And Chuck Norris was the embodiment of that belief. A real man, a devoted patriot, a former serviceman who didn't negotiate with evil, he destroyed it with his fists, his weapons, and his iron will. They represented a world where Americans were the good guys, the ones who showed up and saved the day, the ones who never backed down, the ones who fought until the very end. Chuck Norris made us dream that one day we could be like him, that we would have the strength to fight for truth, the courage to say no to evil, that we would become strong, not just physically, but in character. As kids, we dreamed of his muscles, his strikes, his discipline as a martial artist, but without realizing it, we were dreaming of something deeper, a just world. To us, Chuck meant pure American patriotism, unconditional love for country, devotion to soldiers, to the fallen, to the forgotten. A US Air Force veteran, a world karate champion, he brought all of that to the screen, a man who believed in America as a bastion of good. If I had to choose three films that best define his legacy, they would be Braddock, Missing in Action 3, a film that takes the story of the Vietnam War into deeply personal territory. Colonel Braddock returns to Vietnam to save his family and other prisoners of war. It's about duty, loyalty, and refusing to abandon those you love, or those left behind by history. This Chuck Norris is at his most human, yet most determined level. The Delta Force. One of the most iconic action films of the 80s, inspired by real events, it portrays an elite American unit intervening to rescue hostages. It is pure cinematic patriotism, music, heroism, sacrifice. Chuck Norris is not just a character here, he is the embodiment of American intervention as a force for good. Good Guys Wear Black, the film that launched him into the big leagues, a story of betrayal, conspiracy, and honor, with Norris playing a former commando caught in a web of lies. It marks the beginning of the Chuck Norris mythology, the man who cannot be stopped, who goes all the way, no matter the obstacles. But the magic didn't begin with the film itself, it began before, in those trailers aired on TV or found on VHS tapes, with that deep, gravely, almost mystical voice declaring, "This summer, one man will stand against the enemy." There was something hypnotic about it, something irresistible. It was the promise of a better, clearer, more just world. It was patriotic and emotional in that uniquely 80s way. It pulled us in like a magnet before we even saw the full movie. In the post revolutionary vacuum of 89 and 90, when everything was changing chaotically, Americanization arrived like an explosion of light. The same movies, the same rock music, the same values, the same heroes, through Chuck Norris, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, Bruce Willis. We experienced from thousands of miles away exactly what American kids were living across the ocean. We were part of the same story. America came to us like a wave, not with tanks, but with films, music, and values. And it may have been the most authentic form of Americanization ever experienced outside the United States. We lived the same stories, listened to the same music, had the same heroes. From thousands of miles away, we felt like we were part of the same dream. Today, with the passing of Chuck Norris, we are not just losing an actor, we are losing a world, an era, a set of values that, sadly, feels more and more distant from what we see around us. Reaganism, that simple yet powerful patriotism, faith in good, in family, in nation. Everything today feels overwhelmed by rush change, confusion, and the loss of clear reference points. But maybe that is exactly why we must remember, why we must keep that world alive. Not forget what Chuck Norris taught us without ever giving speeches, that good is worth defending, that strength without moral it means nothing, and that real heroes never quit. Looking around now, I see a changed world. Those simple values, the beautiful Reagan era patriotism, the unconditional devotion, they seem suffocated by something cynical, fragmented, and hollow. What Chuck Norris meant to America and to us is slowly fading. An entire era is living with him. May God rest the soul of this great American hero. Thank you, Chuck, for making us believe that good exists and that is worth fighting for. You were, are, and will forever remain a true American, a real man. Rest in peace, Colonel. America just got a little less tough tonight.